Well, first, I want to acknowledge and I want to thank you. Usually, when this sort of prompt comes up, I have to deal with a limbic resonance of understanding the mindset I'm dealing with. Is one that is thinking things and anticipating that they're going to be receiving things that are completely inappropriate, especially in consideration of what they're trying to leverage in order to compel certain kinds of performance, right? So I want to thank you because it would seem that you have, in fact, done some sort of, I don't know, self examination or analysis, maybe some sort of self psychological healing work, or maybe you've got some sort of spiritual counseling. And so I'm not getting that projection of that expectation that I'm going to engage in something grotesquely and inappropriately sexualized for your prurient enjoyment. But we are talking about very serious matters here. So I'm going to go with what I got, and I'm going to see, I'm going to count right now at this time after all of the efforts I've made, how much do I actually have in cash? Mind you, most of this is accumulation of what I've found on the ground. How much do I actually have right now? If I had to go out and make a purchase, and with that purchase, make sure that there was a time indication of me purchasing an item at a specific place at a specific time as a sort of transaction you could proxy a deal off of. How much do I have to work with? Let's see. I have exactly 66 cents. Now, I have to be honest with you. In the range I have access to right now, in the places that I would be able to go, 66 cents isn't going to cut it. I believe if I use the up 67 cents. If I use the cash I have and what was allowed to be reflected on my card, including that little extra amount that sometimes fluctuates, I probably would have $1.50. Not even. Maybe $1.25. What could I purchase right now and where for $1.25? See, my understanding is what you want me to do is you want me to go to the food store down the street who employs people that have a pension fund. And the pension system for that particular location includes one of its major donors as a gas and oil company that, by the way, also sponsors a major sporting event in another city. Now, this is not the same gas and oil company that sponsored the back to school event in that city that I had to contact the auditor about and that I spent 2 years tracking in acts of backdating stock after they dumped tons and tons and tons of tranches of Class A shares, right? And I had to deal with that, and I had to look into that and see what was going on. And when I found out what it was, well, I mean, conveniently, nobody was available to discuss the implications of that. It's also not the gas and oil company that presumably filed a case against the city and county of San Francisco last year for whatever reason, referring to the attorney general of the state of California, an act that I do not believe actually happened last year because it wasn't on the docket the last two times or wasn't on the court record the last two times. What it is a gas and oil company that had a pensioner who involved her daughter in completely unacceptable litigation regarding custody of the children, specifically regarding access to health insurance, because presumably she had private health insurance, but during the time frame when she had the primary possession of the children's bodies, she just didn't get them on her health insurance and saw fit to keep them with her while they were maintained on Medicare, and yet used the actual possession at that time and for that time frame as a justification for saying she was entitled to keep them permanently, right? And so somehow right now you need what? Some sort of acknowledgement? Some sort of payoff. Because what it seems has happened is in the meantime, right? There was exactly a 9-month period between when the hearing was supposed to happen and when I responded. Well, now I know what 9 months means, especially when it comes to radioactive waste. The problem is we weren't dealing with radioactive waste at the time. Something's happened in your swap out, right? Something's happened in your swap out, and that which was originally characterized in one manner and that actually engaged in one manner has somehow been debilitated. Did you distress them? Did their half-life deplete that comprehensively in just 1 year? These were minor children, by the way. Someone like me, it's had 25, 35 years of this kind of process. That's a little different than somebody that's only had a year and still is a minor, including, I believe, at least one of them is still a minor below puberty, right? Below puberty age. And this is the second time in 5 years this has happened. That a mother born in another country had children born in this country that somebody else very, very heavily connected to the gas and oil sector, specific, very high profile gas and oil companies with major operations based in Texas, but in the interest of major operations not exclusively based in Texas, came up with some completely ridiculous case trying to torment a woman in connection with drugging her children. And this is the point. It was important that the medical coverage of the children, including moments where they needed to get some kind of prescription medication, were used as leverage to take the children away from the mother and put them in the possession of the individual whose lawyers were also lawyers for major gas and oil companies, and, by the way, directly and literally involved laundering assets connected to the children's access to Medicare for deposit in pension schemes, investing in pensioners for the gas and oil sector. So what do you need right now? I've got $1.25 to my name, half on electronic credit account, half on cash I found on the street. What could I possibly buy right now tonight that would be put on a receipt, that would be reflected in part on my electronic transaction record with a specific time and location that I already know you can alter? Because you've been altering them for years, right? I just caught you within the last 72 hours, literally altering my electronic records to reflect times and dates and actual amounts slightly differently than they actually were. But apparently you didn't get enough from that. You didn't get enough from that. So what do you need? Are you going to tell me, or am I supposed to guess to the best of my ability? Because my anticipation is you probably want something that's actually incriminating. Do I have to go get aspirin? Do I have to go get isopropyl alcohol? I mean, it's kind of hard sometimes when you're trying to do these extortions with people like me that are that capable and that competent and could have had any number of other relationship terms with you, but for some reason, this is the level you insist on continuing it at, right? What do you need me to get right now to demonstrate to you that I'm willing to cooperate with this particular kind of extortion? Because it's absolutely ridiculous to think that I know you're trafficking children and putting children in some of the most egregious harm possible, and yet I refuse to engage in and cooperate with your extortion. So the problem's me. The problem's not that you repeatedly continue to try to extort me. It's not that you continue to try to compel me to change my behavior and cooperate even though I've been kidnapped and you've been stealing from me for years. That's not the problem. The problem is I haven't modified my behavior in order to demonstrate, including through consumer purchases in a very, very small amount that I'm allowed to make, that I will cooperate and lower my voice, right? Because you need my voice at a certain level. So what literally tonight do you need for me to purchase with what I have available in order to meet some standard you have where you're not going to exercise that option to target children, including potentially in a fatal event? Because I've agreed by your terms, I've demonstrated my willingness to consent to you using me for somebody else's pension fund. See, I've never been allowed to receive pension benefits myself, so I have no idea what is so amazing and great about having pension funds that will literally compel people to act in these ways, to traffic children, to engage in simulations that they're setting up distributions or manufacturings of actual chemical weapons. that they're going to pretend their children are military hardware, and then they're going to ping them around on their cell phone, that they're going to spy on people doing actual work, and then rewrite electronic records so they can short sell it in a very quickie overnight and then change the record the next day. I have no idea. I really don't know what is so extraordinary about a pension fund that when you have one, you're willing to do things like that at the expense of any other possibility. I don't know. But because I do not have a personal material interest in finding a way to assimilate the rest of society to accept this criminal behavior, does that mean I have any access to rights to due process to challenge it? You've told me for more than 5 years I don't. And right now we've got what? We've got, I believe, 19 days before the major deal was set up for the teachers in Chicago. Am I correct? No, not 19 days. Let's make sure. I don't want to get this wrong. It's that important, right? Because ultimately, that's supposed to be the interest. You can't get upset at teachers. We got 21 days before your 5-year convertible on that deal you hooked up for the Chicago Teachers Union comes due. This is twice in 5 years that you have followed through on trafficking actual children as part of nuclear speculation. Do you need me to confirm tonight? What am I supposed to confirm with? What if I get the wrong derivative food item? You see, you should have already discussed these matters with me before you put me in this position. Because I consider what you did capital offenses, and actually by the letter of the law. These offenses are worthy of the death penalty. Everybody involved, regardless of if you're in another room or if you're in another state pretending that you're not actually altering the data that records and reflects who is actually viewing my videos.